All right, so if you're not supposed to be in a pick a Spiceworker's brain, what's next? Stay here anyways. So we'll go through who everyone is first, but I'll introduce myself first. My name is Sean. I'm the Director of Community here at Spiceworks. Real quick, can I get a show of hands of who here uses the help desk? Keep your hands up if you use the cloud help desk. All right. Who here uses inventory? Who here uses community? Sweet. All right. That's great. All right. So we will go ahead and get everyone started introducing themselves. Who is up first?
Oh, that would be me. My name is Jason Elizondo. I'm the head of engineering here at Spiceworks. So I'm very happy to be here.
All right, so I'm director of product management. So product management is people trying to interface between people having the need and the dev guys, the engineering, and translating that need into request basically for these guys. So that's what I do.
Which you want to say products?
Yeah, that's mostly for the for tools, apps like desktop, inventory, cloud, help desk, all that. And the community is
Yeah, and I do the same thing as Francois on the community side primarily.
And then last but not least.
I work with engineers that build the products, mostly with Francois's kind of ideas and dreams and stuff like that. Try to build those and bring them to light. Make the magic happen. Yeah.
So should we start with a softball or go straight for the fun stuff? So who here had fun last night?
Oh. Hey, the hands are going up.
Who here wished they got to sleep in a little bit more? Right, so who actually has a question they'd like to address to anyone here first? Oh, we're already, got some takers right away.
Ready.
Yeah, it's about the fun stuff. Ben, question to you. How long do you last for all that stuff you have on your table?
On the
Candies, all the stuff.
On the candy? What?
yeah.
Oh, the Korean food.
Yeah, there was a lot of them. I mean, I was jealous so much.
I'm caught up now. I got you. Oh man. The first round. So I don't even remember how this started.
So before you get started,
Okay,
just
okay.
so everyone else knows, someone went on the tour, I'm assuming, and went through our office space and saw that Ben's desk is full of a lot of.
It's all Korean. It's all Somebody on the team went to South Korea, took a little trip, and brought back like a whole suitcase full of like snack stuff. And man, there's so many different snacks. Like before that though, I think I ordered it on Amazon. There's like Japanese snacks. They sell these giant Cheetos with like 100 different flavors, and so people start stopping by when you have lots of snacks on your desk. You get
his
visitors.
desk is just
Yeah, it's like a mound.
of it.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's going to take me a while to get through all that to answer the question.
There's probably going to be a big question that you guys get asked a lot. I've used inventory since beta, so 12 years or whatever. And then I've been seeing a lot of it go to the cloud, and then you introduce the help desk server, which is basically the cloud back on-prem again. Is there any hope or aspect to do that with inventory at all? Because I love the on-prem server, what it gives me with the comparison, the in-depth stuff that the cloud doesn't do, so that's why I've kept it. But obviously it's kind of stalled for a while, so I'm just kind of hoping that there might be something that now that you finally have the help desk on a server, that maybe we could do that with inventory also.
So my understanding of your question is we could take the inventory online, the one which is in the cloud, and your question is, do we plan to have that move kind of back to
Kind of like
on-prem,
we did with the
like we did from cloud help desk to on-prem to help desk server? So the short answer is we're definitely contemplating that. I mean, we've had a lot of discussions on that front. The decision is not made to do that. I think we're kind of looking at what's happening right now from a help desk perspective, right? From the cloud delivering in on-prem version of it. We're going to look at the reception of that, what people think about it, how many people adopt it and are happy with it, and kind of try to, if it's successful, try to probably mimic that from an inventory standpoint. Now, I'll add one thing to my answer to your question is, I don't know if you were in the session this morning at 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m., and we had a lot of discussions like this, and people ask the same question, and then I ask them the question because they came from the angle of integrating help desk with inventory, right? Many people love that integration. So, okay, you have help desk server, that's cool, but it's not integrated with any inventory, which is true. And I asked them the question: if we integrated it, help desk server on-prem with the cloud inventory, I'll give you that it's a little bit weird / hybrid-esque because we're talking about integrating a help desk on-prem with an inventory in the cloud, but pretty much 2/3 of the room raised their hands. I'm perfectly fine with that. So we may go first with integrating help desk server with inventory in the cloud, and then maybe considering if too many people want that inventory in the cloud on-prem, do it. But we may start with the hybrid one because those are two softwares we have right now. We have help desk server, we have inventory in the cloud, inventory online. The integration is simple because at least we have these two. We don't have the on-prem version of inventory yet. So that one would be faster to do.
See, I'm one of the people that are kind of opposite, where I don't use the help desk as much because in my scenario, I only have 80 employees anyways.
Okay.
They just call me up, and it's a lot easier for me just to go take care of it. Some
Right.
things are ticketed, but I'm more heavily into the inventory
Yes.
where if I want to look at the history or what's changed. So
Right.
for me, for my case, I'd be flopped where I might not be using the
Gotcha.
help desk
Okay.
server.
Okay.
But if inventory server came out, I'd jump on that in a
So,
second.
and today you need an inventory which is on-prem?
Yeah.
You cannot live with an inventory in the cloud?
I can. It's just, but with the on-prem server, the 7.5 provides a lot more information, a lot more in-depth than
Yeah.
the
So what you're
hosted
after
one.
is the features. You want those features, the same richness of feature in the new inventory and if possible, on-prem. Okay. Okay, that's very important. Okay. That's true. So yeah, we're building those features as fast as we can. We're not going to rebuild everything. Let's be clear. We're never going to be on par because what we designed 12 years ago, maybe some of them don't make sense. Maybe that was not such a great idea. Maybe whatever reason. But we're constantly listening to the requests that you guys have, and we're building as fast as we can.
So going on that, do you have a list of what are some of those features you'd like to implement that's currently in 7.5 that is not in the cloud version?
Yeah, one of the most popular one is SNMP because right now we do a pretty good job at scanning the network. Is kind of it works pretty well. Now we have the collection agents, which you can install on your workstations, Mac and Windows, that does the software inventory. I don't want to say we're close to what desktop inventory does, but we're pretty close. The one that's missing the most is managing what does not support an agent. I'm thinking of routers, switches, printers, whatever is not a PC or a Mac that you're managing. Typically routers, switches, access point, all that kind of stuff. You need SNMP, which is a management protocol that's the only one available to manage those, and we don't have that. So we can discover your routers and switches and printers. We know those boxes are connected to your network. We know their vendor, but since they don't have an agent and we don't do SNMP, we can't tell you about the ink. Think of printers. One of the big requests is, can you tell me if my ink level in my printers is low and send me an alert? No, we cannot today because we don't have SNMP.
Would that also help with UPS?
That would be, yeah. SNMP is pretty much universal. I mean, that works with a lot of stuff. I mean, I think people have built a toaster that has SNMP built in. I'm not kidding. People have done that. They're in prison now, yeah. So, and that's the one we hear the most.
The toaster?
Yes, no, not the toaster. As well as sending alerts. So, desktop does a decent job at typically the ink. When you detect the ink or whatever, we send an alert. So it's kind of also has some monitoring capabilities, so to speak. And that's another request we have. So we could do it. So I would say those are the two most popular on the list. Would that match what your okay? What would be your number one if you could choose one? What would be your number one?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. You see what
there's
it?
a
You
lot.
see
Dream
tricky
big.
question.
Yeah,
You see what it
there's
does?
a lot. I mean, because again,
all of the above.
yeah, true. Sure, because I do like going, and I mean, I almost do it, like I said, daily. I'll bring up the 7.5 interface of the on-prem server, and I'll look at the events, just recently, when did the IP address recently change? But then I'll look, I've used a lot of times where I'll get two different workstations. I'll compare patches that are installed on them.
That's a great
because I have one, two identical workstations. One's acting up, and I don't know why. And so I'll get two of them that are exactly alike and see what the difference might be. Or I'll run a lot of the reports on what workstations I have to replace next fiscal year. So I'll run a report with the operating system and the patches. But I like building the report with the on-prem because then I could kind of build what I want to pop out, and so that'll give me like I said, a whole bunch of different things that I've built over the years. So, and that's why I really, really like the on-prem server and the features that it has that, even the 7.5 stuff that unfortunately the cloud just doesn't give.
Yeah, so we're getting into a little bit of the reporting. So some of the sessions today, we talked a little bit about how we integrate like an export file that you can take out of the inventory, so the inventory online that Francois has been talking about, and pull that into Microsoft Power BI and do some of the reporting. You could do some of the things you described, and actually some of the folks in the room were like, that's exactly what I would use the reporting to do. So we're headed in that direction a little bit. We're not set necessarily on a specific reporting software to kind of partner with or try to focus on, but we're testing that with Microsoft Power BI.
What you guys have now in 7.5 is great, where you can just build it up. It gives me a list and I can export it in Excel. I mean, that's
You can do that with the cloud flavor. Okay. All right.
What's our next question? Anyone? I saw a couple hands early on. Yep.
We recently moved to the cloud inventory, and the one thing we're missing is the custom attributes.
Yeah.
Is that going to be coming?
It's pretty high on my list. That's not. I don't think that's it's close to the most requested. It's on the list. That's all I can say for now. But yeah, you were spot on. That's a pretty. Is it your? Let me ask you a question. Is it your feeling that if we added static to if we did not deliver on custom attributes, but we did a good job adding a static list of, let's say, the 10 most popular, that would kind of cover your need? Because from an engineering effort, I'm speaking a little bit on behalf, but it's definitely simpler. It's got to be simpler to add static attributes that you use or not than having the capability to define your own custom attributes. I mean, you can feel the engineering is more complex. So, I mean, are they very exotic, these attributes, or are they kind of... Give me an example of 2 or 3 that you would like to see added.
Probably the main one is... the asset tags.
Yeah.
We have our financial department always puts asset tags, and so we had a custom field on the on-prem.
Yeah,
that
you don't
we put
need to
that
describe
in.
more.
So
Yeah, asset.
that's
Okay.
really about
Yeah,
the
that's a
only one
pretty
we
standard one. So that's something we could add probably pretty easily. I'm not committing to dates or committing to do it.
So we'll have it tomorrow, though? Not today, tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah, he just said yes. No, that's a great one. Yeah. So right now, we're thinking about adding the most popular as in a static fashion, just to save on the engineering cost and effort. We believe if we added 10 maybe, we could cover 90% of the needs, and we would not need to go to custom attributes, which is more complex. All right.
So I'm going to highlight on Marta now because she needs some fun. If we were starting to look in the next 3 to 6 months, what do you see coming down range for community?
I think it's a lot more of what you guys have seen with the insights, rolling out more of the technology insights, evolving more of the expertise and personal insights as well as business insights. So just continuing to scale those out. We've been working on them over the last year, starting to get the initial versions out, looking for you guys to share feedback and use kind of some of the feedback loops to start training the model so we can go develop more. But specifically within Tech Insights, we have sentiment coming that's being pretty far along from a data science standpoint. So we'll be able to share with you guys collectively as a community what your sentiment is of specific technologies. Is it positive, neutral, or negative? As well as what are the most common words used associated with that technology. So, easy to download, great support, those kind of things that are helpful in evaluating technologies. That's kind of more specifically what's up next from a data science standpoint that we'll be rolling out. Anything else?
No, I mean, the one thing I wanted to point at, and then Marta just kind of pointed out that with the community, and again, all the requests that have here, I mean, the community is your greatest voice for getting things put on the roadmap and getting them kind of up prioritized so that we can kind of put the resources behind them so that we can get those features out to y'all, and just kind of really making sure that you're communicating with us so that we know what we need to go and build, and so we're not building the wrong things, for sure.
I'll actually add a little bit more onto that, and then I'll bring it right to you because I see your hand itching to go. So not only is it going in the community, but actually helping test. So we'll take internally, we called help desk server Tron Prem months and months ago. Do I owe someone $1 now?
Yeah, it's $1.
I owe someone $1. But what we had is a group of Spice heads who were helping test it. They were giving us feedback. They're helping us with bugs, but they're also helping us prioritize features. And so when you get in on those early stages of testing, it is a little bit easier to get your voice heard because it's a much smaller group. The moment now you're competing with the rest of the community, it gets a little bit bigger. So when you find those opportunities, we obviously appreciate when you help with testing, but it can help benefit you as well.
So I can't tell whether you can hear me or not. So market insights. So you mentioned everything but market insights. The press release says that's coming in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So we are validating that data as well. It's using a lot of the insights that we've already released, which is around like the popular technology. And it's going to layer in sentiment. So as soon as we have sentiment out, we'll be able to build out those market maps. And so everyone knows market maps are showing in any given like market segment or category in a 2x2 kind of frame how our technology is ranked against each other based on penetration into businesses, as well as what is the sentiment or satisfaction of the product. So you can kind of see like any typical market map. If you're up and to the right, you're typically considered a leader and heavily used. If maybe you're very popular up and to the left, but you're not, you're very highly rated, but you're not in a lot of businesses, that may be, you might be more suited for a niche kind of business, industry, or size of company. And so those are absolutely on that 6-month map as well. So as soon as you see sentiment come out, you'll see those kind of roll out as well after that.
I was going to say, do we have a fun name like Spicy Square or something?
Most marketplaces do have these market maps out there, not just the Magic Quadrant. Ours is completely based on your guys' community involvement. It's not based on pay-to-play by vendors or analysts or anything like that. So,
do we have a name for that yet?
No, I'm not that I'm willing to share, because then you'll make me pay $1 whenever we don't call it that way.
All right, who's got our next question?
With Cloud Desk Server, how do you plan to handle updates, I guess? Right now, when you, I was trying it out last night, and it's the OVA. You go and you import the virtual appliance. Is it something that you'll just be, handling right, in the web browser itself, or currently it's just you download the executable and you run your patch or whatever? But how do you plan to do that when you have to make updates?
So for back when we beta tested, like Sean mentioned earlier, it's been months back now. When we beta tested, there were actually multiple versions that we released. So we had the OVA, which is what we're shipping today, and then we had another one that was kind of pre-formatted to work best with Hyper-V. And we also shipped a .deb file, which you could install on top of a Linux VM. And so that's the mechanism, that deb file is the mechanism that we'll use to do updates. And so we don't have anything ready right now, but once we're ready to, the next feature set or the, security updates or bug features, whatever it is that we need to push out, that will come out as a dev file. And we'd like to get it to the point where that's automated, where you can just set up a configuration within that VM after you've got it set up and installed and running in your environment, that you don't even have to think about it. You're just able to get those updates automatically, and it would be using that dev file as the mechanism for installing those for you.
No.
Yeah.
But
So
I have a
quick he
question,
was
though.
on that.
I have a question though. So the mechanism that Ben just described. So there's two school of thoughts. Some people says, yeah, even if it's on-prem, just upgrade it automatically for me, so I don't have to do it. And some people say, oh, don't do that. I'd like to test before, just to be comfortable that this upgrade doesn't break something or change something. So don't upgrade automatically. Let me do it manually. I'll test a new version and then I'll do the upgrade myself. So what school of thoughts are you part of? Yeah,
There you go.
That's a good question.
Depends,
if it's
right?
marked as a stable release, that's fine. But if you wanted to have people beta test things, that would, I mean, and they could then go and do that, I think that'd be okay. Generally, with desktop, I haven't had issues. But knowing software, sometimes you do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we used to do that with the desktop builds. We would have multiple months of beta testing, and again, y'all were instrumental with that, helping us make sure that we released when we went our gold release on those, that they were ready and they were stable to go. So we would definitely kind of have that beta track that would be available one way or the other. But again, kind of to Sean's point, what's going to help us get these things out faster, whether it's the auto update or any of that, is the input from y'all and y'all using it and giving the feedback and letting you know, hey, we're using it, we love it, we want more. And that's going to help us big time.
So I'll ask a behind-the-scenes question. So I work at Spiceworks, so obviously I know a little bit more than most community members. Engineering itself has actually evolved a lot over the last 2 years. We actually used to go where, as an engineer, I probably worked 4 to 5 projects every day. I was pulled between Marta and Francois, not me personally, because you don't want me coding, but as an engineer, between Marta, Francois, we have Liz, who I see back there hiding. We have lots of different products, and they kept getting pulled each and everywhere. About a year and a half ago, we started our agile transformation. What do you see? How do you see that evolving at Spiceworks?
I mean, it's evolved a lot even over the past year and a half. One of the things that we just did recently, and again, this is to increase velocity. We actually, we talk about intelligence, we talk about our community, our core tools, we talk about connections, and what we actually did is we aligned our teams around those particular, we call them pillars. And so the product owners own those product backlogs, and they're working with teams, and they've built these relationships, because again, at the end of the day, as y'all see in the community, it's all about relationships. And they've been able to build relationships with the teams so that they know how fast they can go and the things that they can do and when they can push and when they need to pull back. So that's been, I think, the biggest kind of transformation that we've seen in engineering, just like this alignment around with teams and kind of how they work with our product organization.
So I'll pick on Ben now. So Ben is one of our engineering managers. Have you seen that? Has that been helpful for an engineer, or is it sort of the same in just a different way? How does that change things?
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I mean, like you said, one of the pain points, one of the first things you said, one of the pain points is that the engineers were getting pulled around, and I'm working on this project and I'm switching code bases, or I'm even switching technologies and having to work across a bunch of different things, whether that was on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, that sort of thing. So that's scaled back a little bit when you're working directly with kind of one PM, and you're able to kind of get a little bit more focus and work for maybe a few weeks or maybe up to a month or 2 months or something like that on one project, and really kind of hammer away at it, get it done, stay focused, and then move on to the next thing. So for sure.
And so another thing I'll go on with that is you also notice that we've done a lot more iteration. So previously, before, we would take 6 months to sometimes 16 months to work on a project before even releasing it. And now we have, internally we call them they're sprints, as most agile places. We do 2-week sprints for the most part. And every 2 weeks, we're just trying to get something at least small out there that's of value to the community or value to an application user or something like that, but always iterating and iterating, which helps us then see, hey, did that have a sticky factor? Is that something we need to iterate on again? Or is it something we need to actually pull? Which I've been with Spiceworks since 2011, so someone do some math. It's late in the day for me. Been there a while, and we haven't always had the best track record of pulling something down that isn't being used. And over the last year, I want to say we've done a really good job of saying, hey, there's a spicy list, which probably almost no one in here even knows what those are, have been in our code base, and we pulled them, and now it makes regression testing faster, it makes building new things faster, so I've been really happy in seeing that. I know that's not a question, but as the moderator, I get to take some liberties.
Other question.
Yes.
Sean, stop asking.
What's the decision process on what news articles get published in the Daily Snap?
Oh, I guess that's me. Well, I'm the moderator. Can I answer questions? I don't. So we do a couple different things. So not just for the Snap itself, but also just for the homepage, we do curate content. A lot of the time, Peter's not here, so I'll throw him under the bus. Peter is one of our editorial. He writes like tons of our stuff. He's usually doing as much as he can, seeing what are the big major news stories happening within the industry. What are those that are most pertinent to our audience, though? So it's not just any technologist. What as an IT pro am I more likely to want to know about? And he's trying to make sure those are in the Daily Snap. Sometimes, though, it is based off of what we've seen a community member bring up as well. If they've broken a story a little bit before us, we do actually have an area called breaking news, where as an IT pro, I can go ahead and announce that. And if we say, oh, hey, this is great, we actually do include that within the Snap.
Interesting. Do you have a dedicated area for vulnerabilities? Like breaking news about vulnerabilities?
Not breaking news, but we do have an area that is specifically about security vulnerabilities, and we do all watch that.
Yeah, so once a vulnerability gets high enough, we create that little curated page where it's all they're
Correct.
all
So
there.
yeah, so
I forget what that's
internally
called.
we call them CMS pages or hub pages. They have lots of fun names. So we always have an article about it, but then we do write sort of a landing page that goes around. Here are the different topics about it. Here's what we know about it. Here's the latest news stories about it. That happens when something gets to a major level.
Yes.
So if it's just a minor security vulnerability, probably not going to happen. What was the last one? Bad Rabbit, I want to say.
Yeah, I don't know, but they're all dated and it's all archived, so you can see over history every single major vulnerability that's out there.
I find it finding out known vulnerabilities seems to be one of the harder things to find. I mean, like, so right now, Google Chrome. Google announced, hey, we internally found 4 vulnerabilities in Chrome. You need to update your Chrome ASAP. And I had to go to, like, the Hacker News to find that. And I'm going, this should be everywhere. It's one of the bigger browsers on the space now. Why isn't this more widely reported?
One of the bigger, yes.
How many people consume the Snap and the day, at least if not on a daily basis, at least from time to time? Raise your hand if you're consuming that editorial data.
Yeah, and I can share with those who did not raise their hand what the Snap is, so we're all on the same page. So basically, it's a piece of content that gets published every day. That's the top tech news stories surrounded all the way around the internet. What are you doing?
Francois is learning how the chair works.
And you can subscribe. You can subscribe to the email, and it will be emailed to you every afternoon, just so you stay up to date on it. It's curated from a lot of places.
So that's interesting what you're saying, because we've had those. Obviously a lot of you use the tools and the apps, and obviously the community, and that's interesting because your question kind of begs the question: should we surface this kind of information more in the context of tools and apps? Well, maybe we can discover that you're running Chrome with the inventory. What if we surface that editorial content, exactly your use case? Hey, you're running Chrome. Maybe you should read that stuff. And we've wondered that many times. We've never really pulled the trigger on that. I think with the insight and that kind of stuff, you're going to see more cross-pollination between the two domains. And editorial content is one of the questions we're really wondering whether we should surface. So it's a perfect question. It's a very interesting question, and fuel for thoughts for us.
Yeah, I know it's not the best place, but we see a lot of those start to be self-reported in the water cooler area. And then we move it out to somewhere else.
Everyone seems to default to water cooler, and then I go find the right areas for that to go to. Who has our next question? Nothing? There we go. As I say, I know some of you are. Sneak through behind you real quick.
I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but the inventory not having the cloud inventory not having SNMP is just a deal killer for me going back to it.
Yep. It's pretty clear.
There's no way to put a proxy or a local gateway. Okay, fair enough.
There's no easy. There's software, do what you want, but easy. I don't think there is any easy solution to that problem. But input well taken. So you're just added your voice to the list.
I'll hit that horse one more time myself. Actually,
Poor
horse.
animal.
Hey,
Poor
let's
animal.
Make sure it's on. But just for my side, if I'm looking at the on-prem or the cloud inventory, and again, I'm still heavy into the on-prem. Would you guys recommend or suggest hold tight with the on-prem because something might come around, or is it where I'm just kind of wishful thinking and either I just run this server until it's like a 2003 server type thing and just basically run it till ever, or will I eventually maybe see something within a certain time frame where there'll be some relief for it?
A new version of desktop, you mean?
Yeah, or the inventory. Yeah, the inventory server.
No, you're not going to see one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there. The only thing
To be clear, you're talking about not updating the legacy version, correct?
Yes.
Well, I mean, like a replacement for the on-prem.
So if we had a replacement for the desktop on-prem, right, the on-prem inventory, that would be either the cloud inventory, which doesn't have SNMP and all that, so we're cranking as fast as we can, but that would be in the cloud. Or maybe we would make it on-prem like we just did for the help desk, but that's not the commitment. We're thinking about it. But as far as having a new version of the desktop inventory, we've announced that we're not going to have one. We've stopped development. The only thing we may do is if we detect a very significant vulnerability on the server, we would be forced to patch it so you guys can continue to run it. We would do it, but that's the extent of what we would do.
And that's what I meant. Not necessarily an upgrade to the current one, but more like a replacement.
Yeah, that would be the new inventory online in the cloud, and maybe in the future, but that would be that code base. We're not going to evolve that one. That would be a replacement. And if you want to test it today, that's the inventory online, and it does a pretty good job. It scans, it does software inventory, it doesn't do SNMP, it doesn't have the custom attributes, and we're kind of just Yep.
So,
hang tight.
Sort of going with that, do you have anything that you're trying to get in within the next 6 months for inventory online?
Reporting is the focus right now because we have many people, and it's true for help desk, but reporting. I'm kind of cool with the online inventory or cool with the online help desk, but the reporting is really not close to that. That's why we've cranked pretty hard to present prototypes that we presented this morning. And the philosophy for reporting is not us to redevelop a reporting engine because there's tons of very good ones. Microsoft Power BI is one, Tableau is another one, Crystal Report is another one. Excel, for God's sake, is not a bad reporting. If you know your way in Excel, you can do some pretty good stuff. So our philosophy is don't reinvent the wheel. Give people a good and, if possible, seamless export of your inventory data to that system and do the reporting work in that. So that's what's pretty hot right now. I've had a number of people who told me, I'm good, just move me to the cloud. Inventory, help desk, I'm good, but you need to have a better reporting than what you have right now. So that's the one that we're cranking on right now, and the prototype we presented this morning had a very, very good feedback. We're going to send a template out there, the template that we developed. We're going to send it to whoever wants to receive it. We'll send it to you. Try it, export your data, cloud data, export it into the template in, let's say, Power BI. Just play with it and tell us what you think.
How high up is it with the cloud, or I'm sorry, with the server help desk for the OVA to be compatible with things like Hyper-V or ESXi?
Right. You want to take
that one? You want that one, Ben?
Yeah. So right now, the OVA is supposed to be like a universal format. It's not quite universal, and so we know people have figured out ways to kind of like translate the format to make it work with Hyper-V and ESX.
Adjust the format and everything, but then you have to go in, you have to adjust the hash, and it's a whole complicated mess.
Yeah, it's not as easy as it needs to be, and so kind of pending some kind of prioritization. I think one of the things that's next on the list on that specific front is getting it working with ESX, because that's been the loudest voice as people have tried the new version is, hey, we're trying to load this on ESX, VMware ESX, and we're having issues. And so there's a little bit of like community helping community, which is great to see, but we should try to make that as simple as possible.
So let's do a quick poll. So as far as hypervisor, forget to run this tool, it's not the point. From a favorite hypervisor standpoint, raise your hand if ESXi is your favorite hypervisor. All right, it's about 7. Yeah.
Depends.
Okay, I'm asking the favorite. So, and what if it's what? But that's a good point. What if? Tell me, raise your hand if it's Hyper-V, Microsoft Hyper-V. Oh, come on, guys, it's exactly the same number. How do I make a freaking decision here?
Do it all.
Do both, yeah. Yeah, do it exactly. There you go. Just okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I have a question, or you're pointing.
To veer off onto a whole nother area, the old network monitor. I was actually one of the beta testers.
Gotta go, guys.
Like I said, I was one of the beta testers for
Yep.
it, and I'm just wondering what its future is going to be.
So it's kind of the same situation as desktop. That's a pretty old code base. I don't know when you started testing that, but probably like six years ago. 6 years ago. Yeah, it still runs. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, still runs. No, we had few versions, like a handful of versions. So I'm not going to go into the gory details, but it's kind of in the same. That's a code base that we've decided to not continue to invest on, and we're conscious that monitoring is a very high request. And the approach we're having right now is to evolve a tool, much simpler tool that we have, which is called the connectivity dashboard. And basically, is able to you can ask every workstation on which you have an agent running to test a target. Could be either a ping for an IP address or an HTTP GET to a basic URL, and that system tests the URL. And when you think about it, that's kind of what monitoring does, at least from a status perspective. It doesn't do performance monitoring, but it does status up and down monitoring. So if we know we could evolve the connectivity dashboard to do device monitoring, and that would be pretty close to being able to replace the network monitor, at least for the use cases of tell me if that device is up or down and if it responds to people. As far as doing SNMP and tell me, monitor the ink level, monitor the throughput on this interface, monitor the hard drive on this disk, that's a different story. That's performance monitoring, so to speak. But device up and down, we're not very far with the connectivity dashboard, and that's something we're considering doing. It's kind of in the list, not firmly scheduled, but and that would integrate very well because that would be the same agent as the one we use for inventory. So the situation would be you deploy your agent for your inventory and you just tell the agent start doing monitoring or not. It would be as simple as that. Because network monitor, as you know, was not integrated with anything for whatever reason. There was some good reasons for that. So, but we believe that simplicity is key. Therefore, integration should be there, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to not keeping investing on it. But yeah, they can use the connectivity dashboard. You can do exactly what you do. The only thing it doesn't send you an alert. So, claiming that's a monitoring system, but it doesn't send you an alert, for me, that's not good enough. So that's why I'm not calling it a monitoring system. It tests the connectivity. It gives you a real-time dashboard with fancy colors of what the state of your connectivity across your IT, right? Can my users reach these printers, apps, targets that they need to do their job? So that's real-time connectivity testing, but that's not monitoring. If we added the alerts, which is in the list, we would probably claim it a replacement for the network monitor, at least for some use cases. That's the story. Okay, all right. Point well taken.
Coming sooner or later, or
maybe, or sometime. It's on the list.
So who has our next question?
Actually, on this one, so how many people on network monitor? How many people are kind of running network monitor, keen to see a replacement? All right, 7, 8. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm.
I thought of another horse that needs beating. Dark mode.
Next question. What?
Dark mode.
For applications or the community? Or?
Yes. Everyone here knows what dark mode is, right? Dark mode. So instead of the white background, that's all you're getting out.
I can tell you it's not at the top of the list. I can tell you that.
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
I mean, it's definitely on the community side. It's requested very, very highly.
We joked about doing it as an April Fool's joke, but then people would really be mad the next day when it went away. Yes.
I mean, but if you went through all that trouble to just do it for April Fools, like...
Well, we've gone a lot of trouble for April Fools before. Did you have a question? Nope, I guess not. No.
There's one over here.
I'm hearing a lot of the list, so I would just like to know what page I can go subscribe to keep up to date on the list.
Excellent question. So you go to community.spiceworks.com/product-plans.
Or if that's hard to remember, actually just do /roadmap and it will auto forward you to what it is.
Right. It's actually not a roadmap because we don't give dates, but everything we've done recently, working on and or planning of releasing, whether it's community or tools and apps, whether it's connections, insights, and all these tools, desktop, the story, all these stories, most of the stories we've been discussing here are on that page. I think we're doing a pretty good job now updating. It's fairly recent, so it's kind of a little bit early to say we do a good job, but...
/roadmaps, community.spiceworks.com /roadmap.
/roadmaps or
I think it's singular
product-plans.
roadmap. The thing too is whenever you go to that page, Sean will show it here. There'll be a follow button at the top, and that will opt you into following the previews group, which is where we announce initial features when they're announced, and it will be linked from the roadmap page as well. So the follow will get you email. You'll have if you follow the previews group, which will show you how to do. You'll get email alerts anytime things are added.
And this is a living, breathing document now. Like to Francois' point, we hadn't been giving it much love, but we're keeping track of it now.
We have a process now to update it. Expect it to be updated every month maybe. You can subscribe at the very top. There is a subscribe or follow button. If you click on it, you'll receive email every time we touch it. So you see the network monitors there. You have the desktop story right above that. You see the last update, September 18th. That was like a week ago. And everything is there. We do. I think we're very happy, very proud, and hopefully you guys will. You see the follow button. You guys will like it.
So the one thing I will go on is, many times you go to a page like this and you sort of ignore the top part and go, hey, I just need to go straight to the meat. I definitely recommend reading this part. It actually lays up a lot of what we're trying to do holistically. It gives you the big picture, and then when you're getting into it, you sort of see the puzzle pieces themselves. And one of the interesting things you'll see as you go through this is instead of it just saying, hey, here's all a help desk, whoops, if I do it the right way, it's helpful. It sort of lists, the different components. Like, hey, there's insights, there's local installations, there's inventory online. But then as you go in, you'll also notice some of those show up in other areas. So again, sort of like Jason was talking about with the pillars before, our product plans sort of follows that same thing. Here's all about insights. Here's about connections. Here's about learning more and educating yourself. So does that answer your question?
Great one, thank you.
How much do you pay him to ask that?
$20.
Now he's like, "Where's my $20?"
He has the money.
Who's got our next question? Oh, wait, she's right behind you.
It's been a while since we actually looked at the cloud option again. We're still on prem. One of the things that wasn't on there, and maybe it is, then I haven't gone and looked at it. Have you done anything with customization on tickets? That's one of the things is we like to brand ours internally.
You're talking about customizing the portal, the end user portal?
No, the actual tickets that go out to when a user submits a help desk request and it responds back, like formatting and customizing.
You mean like the email?
The email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing in the cloud help desk for that right now.
It's pretty high on the list. We have a lot of requests on email, changing the email template. It's on the list as well.
There's that list again.
That we don't publish the list because it's too long, but what we're working on is on that page. But anyway, the point being that now that we have the move we just made on making the cloud help desk possible to run on-prem is actually a good move, because now we're in a situation where when we develop one feature, immediately that feature is available to the two audiences, the cloud audience and the non-cloud audience. So for us, it's more incentivizing, if I may say, because by the paying the same cost to develop a feature, we satisfy more people. So we expect to be able to be in a position where we're going to be able to release more stuff, because we know the impact on you guys is going to be bigger. So it's easier for us to pull the triggers on all those investment, because at the end of the day, we're investing money on free software, as you know. So yeah. So I'm not promising anything. We did that move because we know we need to go faster, and we think it's a good way to go faster.
For you, with customizing them, is it? Basically, desktop, you can do anything to those email templates. Do you just need like a logo on the top, or does it kind of go a little further than that? Yeah, like shared templates, yeah. Okay, so it's a couple of things, but it's not necessarily, you don't have to have it like on brand and look exactly like something else. Okay.
Right. In the community, there is an area called feature request, where you guys can post your request, and it's organized per product, like Cloud Help Desk, blah, blah, blah. So you can go there. I'll look at that page. So, I mean, we're taking a lot of ideas, and we're definitely taking input from that. So if you describe the examples of the customization you'd like to do in that email template, we'll certainly get to it, and it's going to be helpful.
So I haven't spent much time on the website lately, but is there a page maybe where we can request features or spice them up and down?
That's the feature request I just talked about.
Okay.
So if you go to the community, you type feature request. Can you find it?
We'll see how well our search is today.
Nobody has a question on the search. Can somebody has a question on the search? For Marta?
Well, and one of the things is, I mean, to this point, I mean, Francois was talking about, the list and all these things we have to do, different backlogs for different teams. And there is, I mean, I think when Ben and I talked a while back with his team, the one that handles mostly tools and applications, they had told me that their backlog was something like 300 tickets. So there's a lot back there of things that they want to do and requests that they've heard from the community. So giving the feature requests, spicing those things up, that's really kind of going to help us prioritize and kind of kick Francois where he needs.
Exactly. So that's the page I was talking about. So the best way the best place to put your feature requests is in there.
For example, this is sort of the list of the community ones, and you can see different aspects of it, like what's the one most spiced up, what's the one most recently requested, what are the ones we've already implemented and closed, which are the ones we closed because we just said we're simply not going to ever do that.
Yeah, and sometimes that happens.
There's another route, too. I can kind of back up what Francois was saying. I know he really spends a lot of time going through these. As you're beta testing or using newer apps or those sorts of things, some of the apps we've got a little little round button in the bottom right that lets you kind of have a conversation back and forth. Usually you're at least starting by talking with Francois, and he'll kind of be able to respond back and forth. Okay, I got the feedback. I can put that on the list, sort of thing. So that's kind of another avenue to get you into.
It's a little orange button if you're using especially the cloud tools. It's at the bottom right corner. It's an orange button. You click on it, and it's a chat. And it's most of the time it's me. Ben is there sometimes, or others. But now we're talking a chat. That's not a feature request. We're going to chat. I'm not committing. I'm responding in the next in 2 minutes, or sometimes it takes. I mean, this week, for example, I haven't been able to process them. But in normal time, I respond in about 24 hours, and you can start talking. And if it's a support issue, I'll direct you to support. But if it's a feature request issue, I have my own list. I'm adding to the list. I literally have a list of votes for those features. So in addition to what you're seeing here, so it's another avenue, like Ben said, to interact with us.
So do we have a time check, actually? I just want to make sure. So we got about 10 minutes, so probably 2 or 3 more questions. Who is... Oh, there we go.
So
Nisha has a question. What?
So I just learned about the power of your insights, and I was very impressed, and I love the storage expert stuff. I'm just wondering, can we expand that out if I move to the cloud help desk, and maybe you guys can start labeling my users PEBCAC for me? So I know it's likely that they just powered their own computer off and not a real issue.
It's like that's like the default.
Yeah, exactly.
The default level. Everybody starts
This
out
user
there.
submitted their computer with the black screen for the 10th time. It's likely just the user.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I like that. Add that to your list.
Restarted. Have you? Any? Oh, there we go.
As she gets over there, I'll follow up on the expertise stuff just to share a little bit about what's kind of coming with that. We're looking, right now the expertise is by technical topic area, and we're looking at ways to narrow that down more granularly by actual technology. So you can see not just networking experts, you can see actual specific technology that people have expertise in, as well as dividing that into levels. So knowing if they're beginner, intermediate, or advanced based on their knowledge as well. Give you a little bit of what's coming.
My question is, so I did 10 years as a sysadmin, and then I transitioned out, and so now I'm management. I'm a director, and I used to deal with the help desk. Are there any plans to do like project management tools as an application from Spiceworks? Because I no longer deal with the help desk and ticketing side, but we have to do migrations and bigger things that require planning.
Yep.
Is there anything like in the works for stuff like that?
Plans would be a little bit overstated. We don't have plans, but we definitely have thoughts. What we've noticed, and I'm sure you'll relate to that because you've used help desk, is many people use the help desk actually not for break fix. They actually open tickets to track the progress they're making on actual projects. And it's not exactly. It's we've never crossed the line of saying, all right, we're going to make it really, we're going to support the project management use case in that. But for example, we've created this concept of sub-tickets when you can have one ticket that reflects the project itself, and then you have sub-tickets, which are the individual tasks, and you assign all of these sub-tickets / tasks to individual. And then as soon as you start managing the time correctly, and you can send reminders if that task is not closed, there you go. So I think we're dangerously close. I would say we're not there yet. We have thoughts about that. We've never really pulled the trigger to kind of finish it. But if we did something on project management, that's probably one of the way we would approach the problem. I don't know if that resonates with you, or if that's the way you would like that requirement to be met, or did you have something different in mind? Like, if your question is, will we have a project management tool per se? There's definitely no plan about that.
Yeah, just because it's the application that we go to to see what's going on in our environment, to just have even just like a calendar or something, with timelines and dates and stuff like that we could build out within the application.
Are you asking because you have a tool today and you'd like to replace it with the Spiceworks tool?
There's tools out there, but
to
get them integrated with your help desk and the communications that go back and forth.
So you see, we're going back to integration with help desk. What if it was a feature of help desk or a module of help desk?
Yeah, even just like a tab, like inventory.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a tab, so change it. Yeah. So here's projects, and you can tie in your vendors in the market or the community and articles and post them in there, something like that.
Yep. How many people would be interested by that kind of stuff? All right.
But it sounded like the functionality of the calendar and tracking was a big use case for you, not just collecting and organizing into a.
Oh.
Yeah.
Talking about storing and kind of bookmarking your. Okay, I'm gonna say it, or you want to do it?
No, go for it.
Have you seen the?
I swore I actually saw it. So we have a collections feature that allows you to collect content across the community, which Sean will demo up here, as well as collect articles and content on other websites. But you can store that in your profile on the community. But there's no integration with that in the help desk. But that could be a way to continue to build that out.
So kind of following up on that, tell me about the most typical type of projects. What would be a project that you would kind of configure in that tool? Would that be future deployment? Would that be...
So, I mean, the help desk is used for short break fixes, and that's it's bread and butter there. But long-term ones, like doing a Windows 10 migration, doing a an Office 365 migration where you have a very long lead time and you have to get all your resources and stuff and kind of pool them together and put dates and times and parties that are involved and stuff like that. And pool that all together in order to have it in one spot where you can kind of track it in one pane of glass. So that's the kind of use case I'm talking
Is that the kind of environment you'd like to see insights popping up? So, I don't know, I'm just taking a scenario where that project would be, all right, we need to acquire a new backup system, okay? And basically you would model that project as a backup system, and then you would have, if you remember the insights, the technology insights, the recommendation, maybe those bookmarked articles with collections and all these insights, the sentiment, the community sentiment about the good backup system. Would that be the kind of environment where these insights could show up and that would help you, or is that something that you see as completely different?
I mean, projects is just collecting information on, I mean, it could be as something as you're putting a new SAN out there or some piece of equipment and you want to, here's my timeline, here's my dates and my hard stops and stuff like that, my milestones that I want to set up.
Have you used the projects feature in the community at all?
No.
Yeah, so we can show you that one as well. So basically, it enables you to, whenever you're starting a project, it's unpublished and only accessible to you, and you set your timeline, what are your goals, and you tag the technology you're going to use within it, and it aggregates all of that into one area. And then once the project's done, you can put some results in there and publish it onto your profile. So that's another kind of area, but it doesn't do the calendar, the alerting, and contract and ticketing.
Yeah, it's more a research tool, something to research technology. You are more. It seems to be more
Here's
like
the
a
example.
kind of like a project kind of scheduling, tracking, dates, and stuff. Not to say that the two would not go well together. By the way, they could.
But it sounds like we've got some of that. It's just not integrated into something.
Who has proper project management system right now, like Microsoft Project, and who's running one, Trello or only two? That's interesting. So not more than two people have a proper project management tool. Okay, that's very interesting. Huh?
Yeah, you're talking about planning.
Yeah, gotcha.
The planning of it. We do also have a project planning tool that only currently supports storage projects. You go through and you can ask. It will ask you a series of questions to give you a PDF of like all your requirements for a storage project to help kind of align on that. And it's got an additional notes place. You can put additional stuff down there as well. And we're looking to see how that does to add additional project templates for other areas, but this will help you as well.
I think we're almost at time, but if someone still has a question, I think we could get to it.
I haven't tried Cloud Inventory, so this might be a simple question. Does Cloud Inventory have version history in the fields?
So version history of what? Of the device of what? Tracking the version of what?
Well, ideally, if I'm looking at a piece of equipment that maybe somebody else used, so now the names, the owners change, things like that, I'd like to know who the previous...
The history of that device.
So literally just field history
right.
of the fields you're tracking.
No, we don't.
Okay.
You had to say it, huh? You had to say it.
You wanna ask your last question?
There was one more. Who was the?
There you go. Brilliant.
And so for anyone who doesn't know what he's talking about, we have a feature called the Daily Challenge.
Who plays? We gotta ask that. Raise your hand.
That's cool. Yeah, that's very
awesome.
nice. Very nice.
Me too.
Very nice.
Learning IT every day. So, yeah. So on the homepage of the community, I'll ask Sean to demo here too. If you go to your homepage or your feed of the community every day, it will alert you or send you an email reminder if you want to let you know what your one question is. It's personalized to you. So you can start getting a little bit smarter in IT every day. And if you answer certain questions right in certain categories, the next day it will get harder. If you don't answer them, it will get easier, and then up level whenever you're ready. And so it's a quick, easy way to start learning and validating your IT skills on a daily basis. And there's leaderboards and streaks and fun gamification as well. Yeah, right. Yes.
Some of them are pretty tricky. Some of them are really advanced, and they're proposed by IT pros like you. We don't come up with the questions; they're kind of crowdsourced from the.
Yeah, they're completely written by you guys, submitted, validated, monitored by you guys as well.
And one of the things I like about it is many times, even when I get it right, which is sometimes, there's actually a discussion topic per question. So you see a lot of the people in there actually talking about, hey, was it a good question if it was, or why it wasn't, what it actually means. It helps me help moderate them, but also I've noticed a lot of people just learning more like, oh, I thought this was the answer, and learning why it wasn't the right answer.
Yeah. So here's a showing of the questions in the comments.
And disregard the extra features that Sean has.
Nice positive note.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, actually, before everyone leaves, let's take a moment, and I'd like to thank our panel for putting up with me and helping with all of you.
Thank you.
And like I said, I think that's it. It's about almost time for the last hurrahs, isn't it? So if you like to win free stuff, make sure you're there.